the manner in which you will arrange these points will be done pairwise. So I've read the passage, I've read the entire length of the passage, I've got an idea what the passage is about, I've reduced it, I've given that idea the shape of a word or a phrase, and that comes in a centrally aligned fashion by way of a title. Alright. Now I repeat this exercise pairwise. So what I did was I reduced the entire passage into a word or a phrase. Now I will sit down to reduce the entire passage pairwise into words or phrases. And these ideas in the form of words or phrases that I get will be arranged in this manner. So the first paragraph I read, before I sit down to read the first paragraph, I write one inside the margin. Having done that, I read the paragraph and get an idea what the paragraph is about, and I write that against number one, which actually is called a head. This is a head. This is a head. Now, something else must have been talked of in the passage related to the head, related to the main idea. That I will jot down under the head against the word or phrase that I have gathered having read the paragraph, and which happens to be related to the main idea. And I'll take it down against the word or phrase which actually is referred to as a subhead. Now there is a possibility that there may be two important points related to the main idea. I'll write 1.2 and take down that particular idea. That will form the subhead. I will repeat this exercise pairwise. And get an alignment of words or phrases which will give me this impression. I sit down to read the third paragraph. I reduce it into a word or a phrase. Before I do that, I write 3 which pertains to the third paragraph inside the margin, and write down the word or phrase against it. And find that there are three important points related further to the main point. I take it down against 3.1 in this fashion. This was my first idea. This happens to be the second idea, and I repeat, this is the third idea. Yes, here it is. All right. So you see, this particular passage, of which I have given you formation in the form of notes and formation in the form of notes, seems to carry 3 paragraphs. Now sometimes, so here, number 1 refers to the first paragraph, 2 refers to the second paragraph, and 3 refers to the third paragraph. However, many a time it happens that the same idea has been carried on in consequent to successive 2 paragraphs. In successive paragraphs, in that case, I'll couple the paragraphs and deal with those 2 paragraphs under one head. So your passage has taken this shape, and these all blanks, head and subhead respectively, will be occupied by either a word or a phrase, ideally a word, and it is always not possible to reduce a given idea into a word, so I can use a phrase. But here, a point of caution: I must first understand what a phrase is. What a phrase is. Now, phrase would be, phrases rather, a group of words, a group of meaningful words. But it will not carry any finite verb. It will not carry any finite verb. A phrase cannot carry any finite. Now, finite verb, we need to understand this particular phrase first. Finite verb. Finite verb is that word which helps me identify the tense. Alright. It helps me identify the tense. So phrase will not have any word which helps me identify the tense. But there is the catch here. The catch is that there are words which appear similar to verbs, but they don't tell me the tense. And these are called non-finite verbs. Non-finite verbs. They're called non-finite verbs. A phrase may have non-finite verbs. Now, how will you identify non-finite verbs? Non-finite verbs will either have a to before a verb, or an ing against a verb. So this is how non-finite verbs are formed, and no one is going to ask you what finite or non-finite verbs are, but you need to understand that it is these words, that is non-finite verbs, which should not be there in notes, because you cannot write sentences in notes. The reason is, a phrase does not have a finite verb. Phrase will only have non-finite verbs. May not have. Phrase may or may not have non-finite verbs.